What's up, guys? It's Caleb again. Today, I recently purchased a book. It's called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. I just got this for myself for the new year. I found it on Amazon, and this chapter that I came across is 20 signs you're doing better than you think you are. I'm not going to talk about all 20 today, but there are a few that I picked out for today's topic. So, first one is, first sign that you're doing better than you think you are is you question yourself. So it says, you doubt your life, you're miserable some days, and this just means that you're still open to growth, and it means you can be objective and self-aware. The best people go home at the end of the day and think, or maybe there's another way. So if you're constantly having doubts about yourself, but you're able to bring it back to a positive way of thinking after ruminating on those negative thoughts for a little bit, being open to growth. There's so many different paths that you can take in your life in order to change it. There's so many different small aspects of yourself that only you know are the bad ones, Nobody knows you as well as you do. You only know the bad things that you do. Trying to cut down on drinking or smoking or partying so much, staying up late. You can fix those things very easily, but everything does start in your mind. Just a little story for me. A few years ago, I actually stopped smoking. It was so difficult, man, but it really was all in the mental. But physically, it was very difficult because I would use it to go to sleep, and when I would run out, I would just have insomnia and wouldn't be able to sleep. And even taking melatonin gummies, it would help sometimes, but sometimes it wouldn't. And sometimes I would just have to go to work off of 1 or 2 hours of sleep and just suffer through the next day, and next day go to the store and get some more. And the cycle repeated like that for many years. But I felt eventually that it wasn't fun anymore, and it's not what it used to be, and I felt like I needed to grow up and just quit that. It wasn't a good habit. It was a waste of money, and there are definitely better things that I could be doing than smoking, especially with the messages that my family have, taught me through my life, and stories that they've told me. There's better things to do than have your bad vices, and only you can control those. So it all started first in the mind, saying that I was going to quit, and I stuck to it. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it didn't take a few times for me to restart and eventually quit. So nobody's perfect. It's just the fact that it needs to happen sometimes. Next point that you think you're doing better than you think you are is you have the time and the means to do things beyond the bare minimum. So you've maybe been to a concert in the last few years. You can buy books for yourself, or you can take a day trip to the neighboring city if you wanted. You don't have to work all hours of the day to survive. This one's pretty straightforward. Everybody likes to have their leisure time, but some people and their situations, they simply just can't. So if you are one of the many that can do this thing, then you're doing better than you think you are. I have came across people who actually can't, and they explain to me their situations, and you can't help but empathize with them. So you'll get those real world experiences by people telling you their stories and such, and you just have to learn to be grateful at the end of the day. Okay, next one. You have a selection of clothing at your disposal, and you aren't worried about having a hat or gloves in the blizzard, or having cool clothes to wear in the summer and something to wear to a wedding. So you can not only shield and decorate your body, but you can do so appropriately for a variety of circumstances. So one thing is like overrated, or like people might put more emphasis on, is having a lot of clothes, just for the hell of it. Some people tend to be minimalists. They're very few and far between in terms of clothes. I feel like, anyways, I've been buying a lot of clothes for myself recently, but that's just for the simple fact that I'm doing better than I thought I was, because I could just buy some clothes and not really think about it. Sure, I have like a small budget that I try to keep myself to, and I try to be smart with my spending, but that's just a sign that I have to be grateful that I'm doing well for myself. So that wraps up that one. Let's see what the next one is. Got two more. Next one is, you are working towards a goal. Notice how I say a goal, not many goals. As long as you have one thing to focus on in your day, throughout the week, throughout the months, then you are doing better than you think you are, even if it takes a long time to get to that place that you want to be at. So it says, even if you're exhausted and it feels miles away, you have a dream for yourself, however vague and malleable. But the thing that I've learned with the goals is that you do have to really focus and emphasize on the details. You can't really keep it vague. Maybe you can at the beginning of trying to define it. But in order to really hunker down and focus on that goal, you need to clearly define it. You can give yourself timelines and maybe dates where you're going to accomplish specific smaller things for those goals. And lastly, maybe try to have an end date. If it's something like finding a new job, I don't really think that you can put an end date on that. Maybe you can try to say that, okay, I want to find a new job by May, something like that. But you can't always control that kind of thing. But you can definitely put a date on something like running 5 miles in a day. Each month you can try to do 1 month, or 1 mile, and then 2 miles, and then 3, and then 4. So something like that you can definitely put a little bit more of a timeline on. But that wraps up that point. Last one is, you've been through some crap. If you have been through some crap, you can look at the challenges that you currently face or have faced and compare them to ones you thought you'd never get over. You can reassure yourself through your own experience. Life did not get easier, you got smarter. So everybody in their life has gone through some terrible, terrible things, and might be traumatizing from their childhood, loss of pets, loss of family, all kinds of different things people have gone through in their lives. And every single person's experience has been different, and everybody's experienced different kinds of losses. So not even just singling out losses, but all types and forms of, struggles that we've had. For me, my specific struggle in last year, 2025, for 6 months, we didn't have an assistant manager, and I stepped into that position, sort of, for 6 months. I was very stressed out during that time. I really, really did my best, but it definitely took a lot of energy out of me during each day. And when I'm stressed out, my skin gets really bad. And a lot of people could definitely tell that I was going through some things, going through some crap, like the book says. So, there are all things that we thought at one point that we thought we'd never get over or get through. And the fact that you're here today, you might have just forgot about it, and I made you remember about it right now. A certain struggle that you had, or a loss that you had, that you thought you'd never be over. But thinking today, you were in a calm state, and just realize now that you did get over it. So those were just a few things from the book. This chapter is chapter 9, 20 signs you're doing better than you think you are. So have a great day. See you in the next one.